Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to JBDC's virtual Biz Zone. My name is Dania Bennett, your host for the afternoon slot. And this time slot is facilitated by the JBDC's Technical Services Department, which is responsible for assisting clients with their product development needs from concept to market. We have been conducting the virtual Biz Zones over several weeks, and we have explored many topics covering different industries, from food to fashion to just general manufacturing practices, best practices. And so if you have a product idea, or if you're actually working on your product, you should head on over to our YouTube page, JBDC Jamaica, to get a glimpse of some of the content that you may have missed. While there, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our page and click on that notification bell so that you can get the alerts on new content. So this week, we actually will be looking at understanding your food label requirements. And our presenter is no stranger. She has been here before. She has actually over 13 years of experience in the food industry, and she is a graduate of the College of Agriculture, Science and Education CASE, where she obtained her bachelor's degree in agri-production and food systems management. She has certification in HACCP, Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point, as well as meat processing, and preventive control of human food. So our presenter this week is none other than our senior food technologist, Ms. Triana Lindo. Right before I hand over to her, however, I'm going to just indicate that when you're ready to ask questions, you can type it in the chat, or you can click on the icon indicating that you want to raise your hand, and we will be facilitating questions at the end of the presentation. So once she's finished, we'll head right on over to the questions. So without any further delay, I'd like to just head on over to our presenter today, Ms. Triana Lindo. Triana? Triana, we're ready for you.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Dania.
Right, no problem.
All right, so as Dania mentioned, hello again, everyone. Hello to the persons who are returning, and of course, the new participants. So we'll be focusing on understanding your food labels today. I will just quickly share my screen so you're able to view the presentation. Okay. All right, so let's get right to it. Now we're looking at labeling our food. What does that mean? Labeling your food means providing adequate information, providing accurate identification, and of course, it is what communicates to the end user. So persons may go to the supermarket, wherever your food products are, and they, of course, the label is what really invites them to your product. Now, what is a label? Now, a label can be in different forms, but according to the JSCRS 5/2010 labeling of prepackaged foods, it means any tag, brand, mark, pictorial, or other descriptive matter written, printed, stenciled, marked, embossed, or impressed on or attached to a container of food. So the label can be in different forms, but regardless of what it is, it has certain functions, or it plays a certain role. Now, why is a label important? Well, first of all, it is a legal requirement if it is that you want to put your product on the market, right? Identification of the contents of the package, whether it's the manufacturer, the brand name, just to name a few, and we'll be looking at those a little later on. It provides information. It allows the consumer to make informed decisions. And of course, it advertises your product. It is more what you call a silent salesman. And of course, it is a contract of safety and quality of the product. So it's like a guarantee. It's a guarantee that you give to your consumers. Parts of a label. Now a label is divided into panels. You have what is called the principal display panel, shortened PDP, and it's most likely to be seen by the consumer because when your food item is stacked on a shelf, that is what is facing the onlooker. It's typically the front, but maybe parts are most visible. It may be any part most visible on the shelf. Because sometimes you may also have products that has more than one PDP, and we call it an alternate PDP. All right, so you may have similar information on different parts of that same label. Now the information panel, that is the second part. Now these are the side panels and they carry, some detailed information about the product, but they are both essential. Now this is just a pictorial to show you the section. So between the broken lines, you have what is called the PDP. And right in that section, you generally will find the brand name, the name of the product, the net quantity, and of course, some kind of graphic display. And then on the side, you have the information panel. So some of that information includes directions for use, ingredients, the manufacturer information, maybe a barcode, the nutrition facts, best before date, and a batch code. But we'll be looking at those in more details. But a label is used for identification. It's important for the consumer to know the contents of the product. It needs to know that a red color liquid on the shelf is either rose syrup, cough syrup, or hair oil, because the similar ingredients are used in similar food, but it's important for them to know exactly what it is that you are marketing. It also identifies the manufacturer, identify the brand name, of course, so that the next time you do go to the supermarket, you're able to pick out that product based on that name. Now, it also provides information, as we mentioned before. Label imparts information as to the ingredient of the products. It gives adequate directions for use, and that is where applicable. Any warnings if necessary. Quantity of the contents within the container, that's in terms of the weight, liquid measure, dry measure, or it could be that you're saying, okay, it's 6 items in it, so you use the numerical count. It's also a silent salesman. So it's used to advertise your product. The color and design that you choose should go well with the product. There is a relationship also between the size and the shape of the package and the container. They should match. Products for refrigeration should have cool colors like blue and the greens, pink, etc. So you have to take these things into consideration when you are designing your label or having someone design it for you. Products for heating should have warm colors like red, brown, etc., just to name a few. We'll look at some colors here. So red usually means hot and lively, blue, icy and seafood, green means healthy, fresh, white, pure, clinical, yellow, spicy, warm and sunny, and orange, fruity and rich. Of course, so these are just some considerations that you may, take in. You may consider when you are going to design your labels, and of course choosing the colors that you want to use on it. Remember, We use our eyes, of course, to select food for us and to determine whether or not we are going to actually be buying your product. Now, in design and approval of your label, the first thing you may want to do is to consult the labeling standards for guidelines. Now, this labeling standard, you have several labeling standards that the Bureau of Standards has. You may visit their library and view these standards, and you may also purchase them. All right, further in the presentation, we will just show you some of those named standards. So consult your standards to know what the guidelines are. Engage a graphic designer, and you want someone that has the knowledge and the experience in design. So of course you will get a label that will stand out on the shelf and be, compete with what is already there. You may need to complete a design brief. The design brief, you put your ideas on paper and give that to your graphic designer now, who will then, design a label to match your ideas. Information sheet with information required to be included on your label. Some of what we mentioned earlier. What is the name of the product? What are the ingredients? How do you use the products? Just to name a few. Then of course you will have to also submit your labels to the BSJ so that it can be assessed, and of course approval is given once it meets the requirements according to the different standards. The standards may also vary depending on the type of food product that you are manufacturing. Labeling trends. Now these are some new trends in labels, clean labels. Now persons these days tend to be more interested in foods with less preservatives or no preservatives at all, with minimal processing, ingredients that they quickly can recognize, ingredients that are made from, raw materials in nature. So they want, a more cleaner label. Because we are, on that health trend, and most persons are there now, and we would definitely want to not put ourselves out of business by not listening to the consumers. Transparency. So we have some examples here. Smart labels. Now these are RFID tags, so you may have like a chip and then in the product, and then of course you may scan that chip and some amount of information can be provided on the product as well as you may also use it to communicate with the manufacturer of the product. Similarly, the QR code. Also times we see like a little, well, it's not a barcode looking picture on the product. You simply scan that with the phone, with your phone camera, and it could take you to a website. You may have conversation with the manufacturer as well. And of course, it may provide additional information on that specific product. So you don't necessarily need to go and sit in front of a computer, but of course, you can simply use your mobile phone. So right there in the supermarket, you are able to do all that. Now, sustainability. Now, this is more linked to, consumer loyalty. You want your consumers to keep coming back. And the focus should be more on, eco-friendly ingredients, minimizing the use of plastics in packaging. That is one example. And you have a lot of persons now who are requesting this type of food packaging, this type of labeling, this type of branding. They want to know that you care about the environment as well, as much as they do. Now, here we have a list of some requirements, and these requirements are based on the BSJ CRS 2010 labeling standards for prepackaged food. All right, I'll not go through this now, but we'll be looking at each of them separately. But what is important to note that you do have mandatory requirements, and there are also there are also optional requirements. All right, as I had mentioned earlier, These are some of the standards. So you have the JSCRS 5 2010 labeling of prepackaged foods, JS Part 1 1992 labeling of commodities, general principles, and the list is there. And remember that some food, for example, here we have coconut water and poultry products, they have their own standards. So if it is that you are going to be doing any of these products, then you may need to get those standards as well. Now, general label presentation. Now, label information should be clear, prominently displayed and legible by consumer. So you may want to choose fonts that are easy to read. They should not have to be using a microscope to determine, okay, what letter are you trying to form? So choose your fonts wisely. All right. Label information should be obscured by design or written on printed material. It should not be, sorry. Labeled to prevent separation from package. English language, of course, is the preferred language. And if the Arabic numerals is what you should be using, when you are indicating net weight on your container, or any other number, your net weight, or could be a part of your batch code and your best before date. But English is the language of Jamaica, which would be the country of origin. Product name. Now this must be clearly stated. It should not be ambiguous or misleading. And you would need to use the common names of some food. You may also use a descriptive name, and it should stand out. At least half the size of the largest print on your label. Now, if, for example, if it is that your product is dried sorrel, then it needs to state that. It should not be just sorrel, and that would be misleading the consumer to think that it is actually fresh sorrel, but in fact it's dried sorrel. Again, another example could be if it's orange juice that has been made from concentrate, it needs to say orange juice from concentrate. Pineapple in syrup, that is another example of a descriptive name that you could use, because you're describing the media that the food product is in. Another example is cream style corn. Sometimes, what if you see a corn on the cob on the label package, but then when you open that can of corn, it is actually mashed out completely. So it needs not to be misleading. It needs to say exactly what is in the package. Net content and drained weight declaration. Now the quantity of the goods must be measured in terms of weight or volume, length, or number of different items. And it needs to be declared using the metric system. The imperial system is sometimes used, but if it is used, it must be in conjunction with the metric system. And it should be contained in the lower third of the PDP panel. Now, these are some examples of how to represent your net quantities. So for your solid foods, then you weigh. So you use a scale to get the correct weight, net weight. And the net weight means the weight of the food without the package weight. So it may be in grams or kilogram if you're for metric. As I said, remember the metric system is this system that you should be using. However, you can choose to put the imperial system as well, that you could place in brackets. So if you want to convert that to whether pounds or ounces, you may do so. Wet and liquid foods, those are measured by volume. For example, milliliter and liter for metric, gallon, fluid ounces for imperial. So if you had 1 liter, you would put the converted fluid ounces for that in bracket. But of course, there are some exceptions, because you have products, for example, honey. Honey is expected to be represented in terms of grams and kilograms instead of mils and liters, we probably would think. Semi-solid or viscous foods are represented by either weight or volume. And then you have foods that are packed in liquids. For example, pickles, you have canned products for vegetables in salt, or it could be fruits in syrup. Now, drained weight and net weight needs to be on the label. Now, drained weight represents the weight of the solid portion of that package without the liquid, right? And that can either be grams, kilogram, ounces, and pounds. Now, these are some examples. Now, the words net content or net weight, or as in NET-WT or NET-WEIGHT should precede those numbers. Now, either is acceptable. Now, on this example, you have net weight. It says 340 grams to represent the metric system, and converted to imperial, which is 12 ounce. Now, on the product below, it simply just has the metric system, and that is acceptable. The imperial is really an option. It's a choice. Now, on these other products here, candies are canned products. Notice it has the net weight, and it also has the drained weight, right? So these are products, are solid food in liquids. So that must be stated on your label as well. Name and identifiable address. The name of the manufacturer, distributor, packer, importer, or vendor must be stated. And this address must be the complete address. So whatever street it's on, if it's in Portmore, in the parish of St. Catherine, and of course the country, that must be included on your label as well. Now, if it is that your product was made in a facility that is called a third-party facility, so you're not the owner of it, right? What you may do is to indicate on your label to say distributed by, and you put your registered address on that package. Because in the case of a complaint or any other issue, the consumer will need to contact you. If you put the third-party address on it, then they may contact the third party, when in fact, we're not the owners of your business. So you may use the registered address with your business, and of course put distributed by or packed by. You may also include email address, contact number, and of your social media handles. These are not mandatory, but it is good to include them as well. Now, country of origin, this is definitely mandatory. Now, country where the foods or the good were wholly manufactured, or where the food undergoes processing. If the nature of that changes, then you would have to also change the country of origin. So say for the example here, so we have pineapples that were pureed, frozen, transported to Jamaica. Here in Jamaica, it was pasteurized and then bottled. Now that becomes product of Jamaica. That juice that was in the drum before, that you are seeing right here, that would have been product of, say, Brazil. So it was imported into the country, but because it would have undergone another process that would have caused, to change the nature of the product, then it now becomes product of Jamaica. If it is that you are bringing a product from a country such as, say, example, India, and all you're doing is putting that product into a package, then the origin of that product would be India and not Jamaica, right? Because all you're doing is repacking. But if it undergoes any kind of processing that will change its nature, then it can be labeled product of Jamaica. Now, ingredient listing. Pay very close attention to these days. Now, the list of ingredients that are contained in the product, including the additives, stabilizers. Well, some of these stabilizers, preservatives, there are additives, whether they are natural or artificial flavors. Now, if you use water as an ingredient in your food, it must be stated. Many times we think that, oh, it's just water, but it is still an ingredient. There are exceptions though when you use it as part of an ingredient. For example, to make a brine syrup or to make a broth, then you know that would be part of the broth. So then you would not necessarily have to list it as an ingredient, right? So once it is used like that or used in a compound, you use it as an ingredient in another food, then it does not necessarily needs to be stated. But if you are making, say, a seasoning and water is one of your added ingredients, it must be stated on your label. Where an ingredient is itself the product of two or more ingredients, we call that a compound ingredient. And for that, you need to list it in bracket in the same descending order that you would regularly list your other ingredients. Now, for example, if you're making, I'd say, a dressing, a salad dressing, it's a cream dressing that you would have included mayonnaise. Now, mayonnaise is already a product by itself. So what you would need to do is to put in brackets the ingredients that were used to make that mayonnaise. And of course, it must be in descending order based on weight. So you're starting from the ingredient of the largest amount to the smallest. Now, allergen labeling is also important. Now, allergens are known to cause some kind of hypersensitivity. So these must be declared. You have persons who are lactose intolerant or maybe allergic to some ingredients like sulfites. And if sulfites are in concentrations of more than 10 milligram per kg, it must be declared. A lot of foods contains sulfite. A lot of the processed meats contain sulfites, and that must be declared. Now, as I said before, list in order by weight according to the amounts that were used. So starting from the largest to the smallest. So if you look at the example that I have here, water would be the most predominant ingredient in this food, and parsley would be the least. All right, so it's starting from the largest to the smallest. Still continuing on the ingredient listing. Now, class names of ingredients may be used. Now, what do we mean by that? Sometimes we see on a label just spices. Now, what percentage of that formulation is spices? If the spices and spice extracts is 2% or less, then you could use the term spice or spices or mixed spices. But once it is greater than that 2%, then you need to list the ingredients. Now, other food additives, for other food additives, you also can use the common, or you should use the common names, their class name, class meaning, preservatives, stabilizers, thickeners, leavening agents. Those are the class names. So you have to use the common names along with the class. Or you may choose to add the international numbering system, numerical ID, which is usually a number. So the example given here is potassium sorbate. Now, potassium sorbate is used as a preservative in food. Hence, you put the word preservative in bracket. Or you could say potassium sorbate, indicate 202, which is potassium sorbate's INS number, and again, preservative, which is the class name in bracket. Food additives such as aspartame, which is a sweetener, monosodium glutamate, potassium sorbate, sodium benzoate, and sodium nitrite must always be declared. Now, these ingredients are known to have some serious side effects on individuals. You have persons who may have allergic reactions to MSG, depending on the quantity that is in there. But these must be stated, must be declared. So once it's in your food, you have to include it in that ingredient listing. And remember, as we said earlier, MSG And then you would probably need to put in bracket flavor enhancer, which would be the class name. Sometimes you may see variation. Persons just put MSG and not writing out monosodium glutamate. This is also important because some persons, or they may see monosodium glutamate and no MSG, when a lot of persons tend to identify with just the MSG and not the monosodium glutamate. So it's important for you to declare it specifically in your ingredient listing. You know, you don't want to mislead any of your consumers. Now, flavors or flavorings may be identified as natural, nature identical, or artificial. So if you use artificial vanilla flavoring, then you need to say artificial vanilla flavoring or artificial flavoring, right? If it's natural flavoring, you indicate natural flavor or natural flavoring or nature identical. Alcoholic beverages. Now list all ingredients except where a standard exists. And then if the alcohol content is, well, if the standard exists, it will guide you as to how you are supposed to label that product, right? But alcoholic beverages, when we're talking about beverages that has 0.5% alcohol or more by volume. Instructions for use and handling. Now, these generally state how the food should be prepared or used for consumption. It could include cooking instructions. If you have to reheat the food, then you need to indicate the temperature of the oven and the cooking time. The baking instructions, reheating instruction, especially these days, you're seeing a lot of pre-frozen, pre-cooked and pre-packaged meals. So persons can simply go to the freezer, pick up a meal, pop it into the microwave or into an oven or on the stovetop, providing the correct instructions, and that would be their meal. So you want to have instructions that are clear as to how the food item is to be prepared. Reconstitution instructions, how much water to whatever amount of product that you have. That is also important. Storage instructions. If the integrity of the food product depends on storage conditions, it must be stated. If it is to be kept refrigerated, then it needs to say so. Keep frozen, refrigerate after opening, store away from strong odors, store in a cool, dry place. These are just some examples of instructions that you may put on your label. If it needs to be kept at a specific temperature, that may also be included on your label and that temperature stated as well. Or at a minimum or a maximum, you may state it. Now, following the storage instructions can definitely prevent your food from spoiling quickly. It can also reduce the risk of food poisoning. And of course, it makes sure that it tastes and looks its best when it is being eaten. Date mark. Now this represents the date of minimum durability. So we talk about the shelf life of the food. Now the safety of the food cannot be assured beyond a specific period, right? That's we're talking about shelf life. Now it's represented two ways, either as an expiration date or a best before date. Now, and it's accompanied by the date or the indication where the date is given. So sometimes on labels, you may see best before and there's an empty slot, but the words should be written there to indicate where you should look for that date. So if it's on the cap or on the bottle, you need to say C cap or C bottle, but you need to provide the proper instructions where that is concerned. Now, expiry date signifies the end of the estimated period under any stated storage condition. So after that, you do not expect the customer to consume that food, right? Now, highly perishable foods, those that spoil easily, usually carry expiry dates. So cooked meat and fish are just some examples. So basically what you're saying, after that date, the food should not be regarded as marketable. If kept for too long, it may cause food poisoning, even though it may not taste hot. So it can still look good, can taste good, but of course, it may not be considered safe. Certain foods that have changes in its composition or nutritional specifications will have this date. For example, milk, right? You should not be bought, sold, or eaten after this date. Best before date. Now, this is the recommended last consumption date. It indicates the estimated time that an unopened food product, when stored under the appropriate conditions, will retain freshness, taste, nutritive value. Beyond that date, I mean, the food may not be at its best with regards to the flavor, the color, and the texture. It does not necessarily mean if it is consumed that it may cause any kind of harm, but the best quality is guaranteed if the food is consumed before this date. Now, these are some examples of how you may represent the date mark on your product. Now, if the product is less than 3 months, if it has a shelf life less than 3 months, you know, example, breads, eggs, pastries, just to name a few, you need to indicate the day, the month, and the year. And below you have, so you can use the number. So number 23 here represents the day of the month, and the month is September. So you use the first 3 letters of the month. And of course, the year may be written as 2020 or just 20. Second option would be, or third option would be to indicate just numbers. So it's the 23rd, 09 representing September, and 2020 for the year. Now, in this case, you may need to write out 2020 and not just write 20. So it should not read 23rd, 09, 20. Products that have greater than 3 months shelf life, sauces, jams, jellies, pickles, etc. No, the month and the year will suffice. So in the example here, February 2021 or February with just 21 indicated is fine, or 02 2021. So if you are using only numbers, then you may need to write out the complete year. Now, these are some examples of foods that are in the market. So here you see 25th of August, 2015. And it's much easier to read like this. You can quickly identify what month it is, and you don't have to be trying to decipher which month are we in again. So right there and then the first 3 letters of that month, August. Second one, 16th March, 2025. 8th of May, 2019. And then note, so for some canned products, you tend just to see March 2014 or December 2012. So just the month and the year will suffice for these foods that has a longer shelf life. Batch code. Now, batch code is a unique coding system. It's generally something that the manufacturer comes up with, of course, bearing certain things in mind. You pretty much use this to identify when the product was made and for traceability purposes. You want to know that if one of your marketed products on the shelf, if a customer has a complaint about it and called you about it, they were able to tell you the batch code, and you should be able to now trace that batch code as to where your raw materials were even gathered, right? So which farmer supplied you the ingredients that you used in that batch of your product. That's what we're talking about, traceability, right? So it is that important, very important to you, the manufacturer. May not be as important to the consumer, but it's definitely something that you, the manufacturer, will need to. They must have a system in place. It helps to identify specific batch of food in the event that they need to be recalled by the manufacturer, packer, or producer. Now, this is just an example. It is not saying that your batch code needs to be written this way. It's just an example, but it is pretty, easy to understand. So the sample says APS. Now, APS would represent the product name. Now, this is just the first 3 letters, or you can use the first letter of the name of the product. In this case, it represents all-purpose seasoning. manufactured on the 23rd of June, 2020. And 01 there represents the batch number. Because it could have meant that if you say this, if for example you did not use 01, you didn't use a batch number, and you just put APS 23rd of June 2020, but you would have made several batches on that day. How would you know batch 1, batch 2, and batch 3, and so on? So it's good to always indicate a batch number as well. All right, it could be the second product made for that day, the third, and so on. And as I said, this is just an example. You can decide on a format that best suits your product. Precautionary statements. Now, declaration of allergens in food is key. Example, contains soy, eggs, nuts, etc. Many persons are now finding out that they actually have an allergic reactions to certain foods, certain ingredients. You may also indicate may contain. So if it may contain, you're not sure, but it may contain some allergen, then it is good to indicate that on the packaging as well. Not good, but necessary. Processed in a facility that also produces wheat, eggs, etc. So if you're not the only one who uses that facility and you know other persons process foods that contain allergen ingredients, then it is good to indicate this statement as well. May contain traces of is also another precautionary statement you could use. And others include contents may be hot. That could be that you're doing an instant drink or an instant porridge mix or something. And when the hot water is added, of course, the container will get hot. It would be good to include that as well. Nutritional information. Now this is optional. Nutritional information, sorry about that. No, this is definitely optional. Right now, it is not mandatory. It's currently an option, but more and more consumers are requesting this information. It helps them to make, informed decisions. And of course, if it is that you're going to put it on your food, then it needs to meet certain standards. Now, nutrition fact panel should be generated from the nutritional analysis, and this is done by an approved laboratory. Now, locally, we have the Bureau of Standards, we have the Scientific Research Council, and Technological Solutions Limited. Those are the approved labs locally. So, or if you choose to do it at another source, that's also fine. You just need to provide the Bureau with, they are the regulatory agency, with that report from an approved lab. Now, it helps consumers to make an informed choice based on the nutrients such as the carbohydrates, sugars, protein, fat, sodium, vitamins, and minerals, and of course, calories. These days, everyone is counting calories, and it's important to know what calories you are getting from your food and what ingredients in your food provide that calories. Other optional information, national symbols used. Now, many products are out there and you may see the Jamaican flag on it. But if it is that you intend to use it, permission must be sought through the Office of the Prime Minister. This is simply done by preparing a letter indicating you wanting to use the flag, and of course provide samples, just printouts of the labels and take that to the Office of the Prime Minister. There are certain certification marks like Jamaica Jerk, Blue Mountain Coffee. Now these cannot be just used loosely. You have to be part of an association, for some like Jamaica Jerk Association, Blue Mountain Coffee. If your coffee is not grown in the Blue Mountain, then it cannot bear that mark. Organic, no. Many foods are out there labeled as organic, but organic is a whole different meaning. There is an association, the Jamaica organic agriculture movement. Now you need to also register with them if it is that you want to use the term organic on your food, because your ingredients, the raw material has to be from an organic source, and the registration must be done by the Joe Association. Kosher, halal, non-GMOs, those are other marks that you may use. Again, they cannot be used lightly. You must have some proof that these ingredients are so. Grade designation, grade A, B, we see these on eggs, on poultry, and even honey products. And again, remember I said some products has their own standard, and honey is one of them. Now it is mandatory for some products for the grade to be stated on the package. Other optional information, pictures. Now, we don't necessarily have to put a picture on the label, but of course, sometimes it is what attracts the consumer to the label. So it's a decoration really, right? And it also gives you an indication of what is in that food product. Now, universal legibility. Now, I'm using, embossed printing or using Braille. We tend not to consider some persons who are in a society, for example, those persons who may be blind, right? We could simply use Braille. Now, the example that is stated here in bracket, it actually means food. Now, quickly they can browse the supermarket if you consider this an option to put on your label, right? You could put that on it so they are quickly able to identify what food product it is. But if it is that you're going to be adding Braille, then you may want to ask someone who is knowledgeable about Braille to actually convert the language for you, so as not to get it incorrect, because if you simply Google search it, then you may get variations in the response. Increase your font size. You have persons who are not able to see very well, they're visually impaired. Now, you may want to use larger fonts, simpler fonts, that they are able to read the product properly. Because you do have a lot of persons, and it doesn't have to be an elderly individual as well. You have young persons with impairment. And sometimes when we use certain fonts, it actually prevents consumers from picking up our products because they're not able to read the product name properly or read ingredients list properly. Bold type. Now this can be used to differentiate warnings and not just color, and it should not exclude consumers with color blindness. So you may want to, even if you use colors, try not to use too many colors, right? Do not use too many colors, so then the colorblind, it would not mean anything to a person that is colorblind. So you use simple colors, and we had listed some before. Simple colors, that even the colorblind persons may be able to identify. Now, this is a sample of a label, and we just want to show you what it looks like, get a closer view, get a more microscopic view. So here we have a label for an all-purpose seasoning. And here is a representation of what your brand could be. So you have your brand name, the name of this company or business name is Blends, and a simple 3-leaf in a rectangle is what the logo is. So that represents Blends. Now, the name of the product, all-purpose seasoning. I remember we said that this must be clearly stated, at least half the size of the brand name. If you choose to highlight it more than the brand name, that is okay, because sometimes your focus you may want your customers to see the product name more than the brand name. Net declaration, again, we said net weight, and remember the 340 grams here and converted to 12 ounce. So you're to use the metric system, and the choice to use the imperial system is also there. Country of origin, it should state the country that the product was made in. So in this case, it is product of Jamaica. ingredient list. So from this ingredient list, we know that escallion is the most predominant ingredient and rosemary is the least. All right, so that must be clearly stated. Remember, as I said, if you use other food ingredients like compound ingredients, you need to put in bracket what makes up that food item. Directions for use. This is saying use 1.5 tablespoons of all-purpose seasoning per pound of meat. So you see how clear the instruction is? So for every pound of meat, this is the amount that you are to use, whether it's for fish, meat, fish, or poultry. You rub the seasoning well and refrigerate overnight. Now, this refrigerate overnight, this would be key because what you're doing is allowing the food to marinate. So this is the instructions that the manufacturer believes will give you the best result. If you choose to deviate from this, then that is also fine, it's your choice. But this is what they believe would be the best way to prepare your food to give you the best results. Refrigerate after opening, right? So you need to maintain temperatures below 4 degrees, 4 degrees or below, 4 degrees Celsius, that is. Best before date. Remember we spoke about the minimum durability. Best before is March 21. So what it means is that this product has a shelf life greater than 3 months. Batch code. Again, we simply use the example that we provided earlier. So this is all-purpose seasoning, made on the 23rd of June 20, and it was batch 1. So this must be clearly stated. And a picture. This is your choice. In this case, we chose to use a picture showing you some herbs and other spices. So it means it is expected that these ingredients are in your product. And you can also check the ingredient list to see if these are actually in it. A barcode, not mandatory, but it is important, especially if your product is going to be placed on supermarket shelves. It's used to quickly identify what your product is, so they can simply scan it and enter into their computer system. And this code is unique to every single product. So if you have this all-purpose seasoning is 340 grams. If you have one that is, say, 180 grams, then that would require a different barcode. So barcodes differ according to product and according to type and size, container size as well. So if you have 3 different size containers of the same all-purpose seasoning, that is 3 separate barcodes. Nutrition labeling. Now, nutrition facts, as we indicated before, it's not mandatory, but of course can be very important for the consumer, just so that they know what is in the food, what nutrients are in the food, what exactly are they getting from those ingredients. Nutrition analysis is the process of determining nutritional content of the food and food products. Now, the fact panel is generated from this analysis. And again, such an analysis must be done by an approved lab. Now, what is the purpose of the nutrition labeling? It provides the nutrient composition of the food. It allows the consumer to make informed decisions. It allows for healthy choice selection, and it helps them to select foods based on the amount of energy, carbohydrates, sugar, protein, fats, saturated fat, dietary fiber, and sodium that is in it. It promotes selections of food that can provide low calories, less saturated fats, and more refined carbohydrate content. Now, let's look at the nutrition fact panel. Because oftentimes we see the fact panel, sometimes we do pay attention to it, but others not necessarily so. Now, at the top of it, you will see servings per container, and you will also see serving size. In this example, it says 8 servings per container, serving size is 2/3 cup or 55 grams. Now this tells you the intended amount expected to be had by one individual. Now, if you choose to consume the entire content, then you would be consuming 8 servings. So in this case, serving size is 55 grams. Total number of servings is 8. So it means that the net weight of this packet should be approximately 440 grams or 5 1/3 cup when you multiply the serving size by the number of servings that is in the container. Calorie source. This tells you how many calories are in a serving, and it is important to note that calories are provided by your proteins, your fats, and the carbohydrate in food. So it's not just from one source, 3 sources: protein, fats, and carbohydrate. Now, take a look at this example. A bag of dried fruits contains 4 servings. A serving is 28 grams. Each serving provides 130 calories. Now, throughout the day, you finish that bag. You would have now consumed 520 calories in one day. Many times we may pick up a bottle of soda, and we do not look to see that the number of servings on that container is approximately 2.5, but we consume the entire content. And also not bearing in mind that the information that is provided on the panel is per serving. So if for this product it is 230 calories, it means that for every serving of food. So if you consume the entire 8, it would be 8 times that 230 calories that you are going to eat. Total fat. Now fats is measured in grams, and this will list the different kinds. You have the saturated fats and the trans fats. And those are what, those are important to persons. Persons want to know what saturated fat they're eating, and they definitely want to avoid trans fat. So this is an area where you want to see small numbers, small percentages. Also, it's important to note the fat, provides energy, but it's the type of fat that is important to note. So you may want to pay attention to the saturated and the trans fat. Now, saturated and trans fat are known to be associated with cardiovascular diseases, according to experts. So they're suggesting that you limit these nutrients to between 20 to 35% of the calories. So remember, calories are provided by protein, carbohydrate, and fat. Now, of that total amount of calories per serving, 20 to 35% of that should be represented by fat or less, not more than that. Other names for ingredients high in saturated fats: animal fat or oil, beef fat, butter, chocolate, milk solids, coconut oil, milk, cream, cocoa, cream, ghee, dripping, lard, sweat, palm oil, sour cream, vegetable shortening. These are just some examples. Now, sodium. Sodium is one of those important nutrient analyzed that we need to pay attention to. Now, a lot of times we may tend to think that sodium only comes from the salt that is added to the food, but not necessarily so. Naturally, you have sodium in foods, right? The recommended daily amount is 2,400 milligrams for an adult. And if it is that you consume 1 teaspoon of salt per day, that is already approximately 2,300 milligrams of sodium. So it means you'd have almost reached your daily intake amount, right? So we need to be careful and pay attention to the ingredient list. And also to remember that salt is not the only provider of sodium. Now, processed foods are a rich source of this sodium, right? So the nutritional information for these foods is absolutely important. So if you are making a processed food, you may need to do the nutritional analysis, even though it is still not a requirement locally. Other names for salt ingredients: baking powder, celery salt, garlic salt, meat or yeast extract, monosodium glutamate, the MSG, onion salt, rock salt, sea salt, sodium, sodium ascorbate, sodium bicarbonate, sodium nitrite and nitrate, stock cubes, vegetable salt. So we may see these ingredients listed in the list and thinking that, or maybe one or two, and think, oh, I don't see any salt. But you do see baking powder, right? You do see celery salt. You will see, definitely see at least one or two of these ingredients, depending on the food item. Now, carbohydrate. Carbohydrate, again, is a source of calorie as well. It provides energy, and when it breaks down in the body, it breaks down as sugar. So this is also important. So persons who have some kind of lifestyle disease like diabetes pay very close attention to carbohydrate. Some may only pay attention to the sugar, but it is also important to pay close attention to the total carbohydrate since it breaks down in the body as sugar. Now, it's important to limit sugars to 15% of the daily intake. Some of the sugar names that you may see: dextrose, fructose, glucose, golden syrup, honey, maple syrup, sucrose, malt, maltose, lactose, brown sugar, caster sugar, maple sugar, raw sugar, and sucrose. And remember, these are added sugar. Foods naturally contain sugar. Fruits and vegetables naturally they contain it. So you have to also pay attention to the additional sugar that is put in it. Proteins, vitamins, and minerals. Now the RDA standard is recommended daily allowance is about 0.8 grams of protein per 1 kg of body weight. Protein helps us to, put on some muscle. But can it be too much? Maybe, but it depends on what your goal is. If you are, say, trying to do, get fit, but you also want to put on some pounds, put on some muscle, then you may need to consume a lot of food that contains protein. All right, calcium, iron, potassium, and vitamin C. Now, these are the vitamins and minerals that are mandatory to be listed on the label according to the BSJ standard, right? But of course, there may be other nutrients of importance, but that you can ask for it to be analyzed and then indicate it on the label as well. But once you're saying that it is in the food in sufficient amount, you need to have the proof to back it up. Now, 5% or less of these vitamins and minerals is considered to be low. 20% or more is high. So in this case, this example here, we could say that this product is, say, high in calcium, high in iron, but of course it would be a little, well, over 6% potassium, that is medium. So consumers tend to pay a lot of attention to these areas. All right, percent daily value. Now, this is usually the last statement, and this at the bottom of the nutrition fact panel. Now, it simply means this, it's been telling you that how much of a nutrient in a serving of food contributes to a daily diet. And usually it is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So they're expecting that you're consuming 2,000 calories in a day. So the advice that you get is based on a diet with you consuming 2,000 calories. Persons may need to consume more and others may need to consume less. But bear in mind that each serving, not the entire package, is based on this percentage. So if it contains 10% fat, it is 10% fat per serving of food and not the entire container, unless it is 1 serving per container. And that is very important to remember, because we tend to just focus on the numbers that we're looking directly at, but not necessarily to pay attention to what is a serving of that specific food. Nutrition claims. Now, sometimes we see food and we say low fat, reduced salt, high fiber, good source of nutrients, maybe good source of calcium, good source of potassium. But if food does not meet these requirements, then you cannot state it. You need to have the evidence to show that it is so. Now here's a sample nutrition fact panel, and the source is, this is from the Bureau of Standards. Now you see how the calories is highlighted. As I said, this is what consumers really pay attention to. A lot of persons are counting calories. You have apps that can be calorie counters for you. And persons will know, pick up your label, look at your nutrition facts. Okay, if I consume 1 pancake using your product, only 50 calories I'll be getting, or I'll be getting so much. So it depends on the consumer, right? But if you choose to consume the entire packets, which you'll be making 19 pancakes, that's 19 times 50, if you're talking about the calories. Again, just to stress, areas where people focus on total fat, sodium content is so important. Remember, it's just not salt that provides sodium. There are other ingredients as well, other leavening agents, other types of salt that provides it, and some naturally in the food product, the main ingredient in your food product. Now in this case, the calcium, iron, potassium, vitamin C, not necessarily a significant source because it is below the recommended 5%. So only 2% in this calcium is found in 1 pancake, and 2% potassium. And remember, serving size here is 1 pancake or 15 grams. Total amount, total number of servings per package is 19. So always remember that whatever you see on the nutrition fact panel is per serving of that food product. Now, labeling requirements for other regions. Now, it may vary depending on the format. If you're sending your product to the UK or the US, definitely a different label may be required because they require certain nutrients to be declared, and how the information is put onto the label may also differ. So variations in the information considered mandatory. Manufacturer producer responsibility to be aware of the specific labeling requirements for those intended markets. And you definitely have to keep abreast of the changes because almost, annually you have changes to these requirements. There are always ongoing changes. Now these are some links to the US. So if you're sending your food product to the US, then the FDA requirements is key. For the UK, here is a link, and Canada as well. So all these markets require different label. They have their own requirements. Some may be similar, but it is important to do your own research if it is that you intend to send your food product into any of these markets. All right, thank you for tuning in. Now at the end of presentation.
All right, thank you so much, Triana. A very clear and informative presentation. I'm really certain that most of us were not aware of all of the elements that are involved in a label. We may think, oh my God, a food label is so boring, that's so standard, but it really, in essence, is the information bank for the product. It tells you everything, including how, when you consume it, how it may affect us, you know. So I just wanted to highlight 2 main points before I head over to the questions. Or visual communications unit here, rather. They can assist you with designing your labels to the appropriate standards. So please don't hesitate to contact us. You don't have to worry too much about that once you engage them. They are aware of the protocols to follow when designing labels to meet different standards. And also our food unit, once you are a client of JBDC, they can refer you to the Bureau to receive discounts. So once you get a referral letter from us, you can obtain discounts from the Bureau of Standards so that you can you know, find it a little bit more affordable to do some of these analyses and tests that you have to do in getting your product to move forward. So, Triana, as I said, thank you again for that. I saw that some questions came in earlier, so okay. I am just going to check on that part. One quick second. Okay, all right. So, Andre Samuels has asked, how does one formulate a best before date for manufactured food? Is it from manufactured date or date from the receipt of the raw material?
Okay, well, it would be, well, first of all, it depends on what your product is. So if you are receiving, so you're using vegetables, herbs, and spices, you receive those, but then you would definitely do some kind of pre-processing before. And of course, with proper storage, then it will last. So if you're going to use, use that into a sauce, then that would be another processing step. So it would begin, the shelf life would begin after that step has been made. So it would start from after you would have made that sauce, right? Then you'd have started to count the shelf life.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers the question, but it's at that stage of production, not at the initial raw material.
Not once you have received the raw material, once you have actually started to add to the materials itself and started to create the product.
Right.
So it would be from that date. Okay, he had another question. Sorry, it's actually Andrea Johnson. She actually said, you indicated that milk, for example, should have an expiry date, but UHT milk like Surge actually lists best before date rather than an expiry date. Are you saying that is incorrect?
No, it's not incorrect because of the type. I should have probably indicated the processing type. Now, UHT milk is aseptic. They use aseptic packaging technology. So of course, the product is sterilized, the package sterilized, and of course, it's packed in a sterilized environment. So because of that type of technology, it allows for a longer shelf life. So you get anywhere from 6 months to 9 months in that specific type of container. And the container is so designed to maintain the commercial sterility of the product. So the milk I should have indicated I was referring to was like just pasteurized milk packed in boxes or in plastic bottles.
Okay.
So that is in fact correct in their part.
Okay, all right, thank you so much, Triana. And I just wanted to highlight something that I found very interesting as well in your presentation, until I see any more questions pop up. You pointed out how important it is to highlight how a product is produced in the facility. Does it encounter any other products that may have allergens to persons? Right. Or, you know, how important it is to also indicate when these items or ingredients are actually in the food. And I just want to highlight, what are some of the potential consequences that persons may face when these things are not done? Because persons may not even be aware how important it is to really list all of their ingredients on a product. What are some of the potential consequences to that?
Well, first of all, the regulatory agency can remove some of these products from the shelves if it is that the ingredients used in it are known allergens, right? We have ingredients such as soy and eggs. I can't remember them, I mean, all at once here, but there is a lot. Yes, peanuts, so not enough. Tree nuts, all those are considered allergens. Sesame seed, wheat, the gluten in it, persons, you know, have intolerance to it as well. So it can be removed from the shelf. Additionally, what you will cause is your consumer not wanting to buy your product again. You know, that have lost some confidence in your brand. So you don't want to be losing customers. So it's definitely important to declare. You may even face a lawsuit if it is that person would have consumed your stated on the package that it contained allergens, and of course they become sick. Some persons can even die. They have different sensitivity. Persons have different reactions to these ingredients. So it's definitely important to indicate on the package what allergens are in there in that precautionary statement, even though you may know that you follow through, because at those stages of your production are your critical control point. You follow through with your procedures and everything should be fine. But at the end of the day, it still needs to be declared, because you will always have that what if,
Right.
just in case.
And especially if it's in a facility that you may not have control
That
over,
is also
right?
true. Right. If others may use the facility just as you, it could be an incubator,
Right.
and you're just there for one day.
And we do have a food incubator, which we ultimately will be reopening once we have finalized our procedures and processes to deal with COVID. So that is also something, if you were not aware or familiar with, you can contact us in time to get information on how you can actually benefit from utilizing our food incubator. Also, okay, we have some more questions. Let me just jump to them really quickly. Okay. Kevin Dean is asking, if you are adding other purchased products, for example, a chocolate bar, into your own product or products, do you have to add the ingredients and grams, metrics, or imperial of the chocolate bar to your own product and give a total figure? Do you have to do that?
Okay, if I'm understanding. So say, for example, chocolate bar in your own product, you would need to indicate that chocolate is used, and put in brackets the ingredients in that chocolate.
Okay.
So
Oh.
it's kind of maybe a twofold question. I'm not sure what the product is, but let's
Can be
say,
any product. I think you just use a chocolate as an example. So
right,
it's
so
like you would have purchased a product that's already on the market, but you're using that product within your product.
right.
So
So
yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a combination. So you're putting it in a different package, that's different. But once it's in the product, it would be part of the makeup of your finished product. So that would be the net weight that you would need to consider, not necessarily the chocolate weight that's in there. So it's just one weight, one net weight you would have at the end, whatever the weight is for your specific end product.
Okay. All right. Andrea Johnson is asking, would the Bureau of Standards be the agency to assist with providing or determining the best before date for a product?
Yes. So the Bureau of Standards is one agency. You indicated before. Once it's an approved lab, you also have Scientific Research Council and Technological Solutions Limited. They all offer shelf life studies.
Okay. And as I said, once you are a client of ours, you can be referred to receive discounts on services that are offered by the Bureau. Okay. Andre Samuels is also asking, honey has a long shelf life. When does the best before date establish for honey products? Also, does the type of packaging affect the best before date?
All right. Type of packaging, yes. Storage, all that affects the best before date, which is why it's important for you to include storage instructions as well. But outside of that, there is a standard for honey. It would be best to either purchase that standard or to visit the Bureau's library and review that standard. And don't want to, not so sure. I don't quite remember the shelf life for honey, but they do have one.
Okay, all right, great.
But I could do some research and provide that information for you.
Okay, I'm sure they'll appreciate that.
Check the standard, yes.
I'm not seeing any more questions right now, but if you have any more questions, please indicate them quickly. Okay, Bolivia Rambaran is asking, if you are providing ready-to-eat products like ice cream, how do you deal with the ingredients?
Okay.
I guess in terms of declaring them, or even if there are
Oh,
any potential
okay.
allergens or so that may be in there, because
And
it's
okay,
ready to eat.
ready to eat.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, ready to eat can be sold in supermarket, but is this ready to eat sold in supermarket, ready to eat being sold in a, say, a
restaurant.
shop, a pastry shop?
Yeah,
Either one, it is still important to declare your allergens. If it is on the shelf, then the label is what is going to guide the consumer. So all of that must be declared on your label. You list the ingredients and of course still put that precautionary statement there. If it is that you are doing it in a shop, then you may want to put up signs, just some little notice boards to tell the customer that the food you're providing contains so and so, but you must indicate it. You must indicate it somewhere inside there. And possibly you could even do simple labels for those ice cream packages that you are selling in the shop as well. And indicate that, because I mean that is very important,
all right.
especially ice cream in combination, you know, with the nuts. Ice cream already has
Dairy.
milk, and if you choose to use egg in that, and along with those nuts and tree nuts and other lovely things that we like to eat.
Right. Okay. All right. So Andrea Johnson has said, thanks for an excellent and very informative presentation.
You're
I
welcome.
am not seeing any more questions right now. So I believe I will just go ahead and wrap up. Right. Bolivia Rambaran has also thanked you for an excellent presentation as well.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, all right. Kareem Bean is asking, how do we become a client of yours as it comes on to discounts? I'm gonna let you answer that, Triana.
Okay.
How does one become a client of the food unit?
Okay. Well, first you would need to become a client of the JBDC. So we have a system in place where you would either be sent by email questionnaire, or if it is that you may contact with us via phone and you are given a consultation date, you could come in, because it could be done here as well. But it's definitely on the computer. You complete that questionnaire, and then based on the information that is provided, then you would be data would be input into our system, and of course you'll be referred to the relevant department as they see fit based on that. It's quite easy. All it takes is a simple phone call, providing your name and your contact information.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We are receiving a whole lot of thank yous for the presentation. Persons are very pleased. Also, Kevin Dean has indicated that the information was very informative, and he has said that he has actually benefited from the discounts through the JBDC.
Okay, that's excellent.
Right. So I want to thank everyone for their feedback as well. You know, the Shane Lawrence has said, will this recording be accessible to the general public? And yes, the recording will be accessible to the public. Our seminars or webinars rather, they are posted to our YouTube page, JBDC Jamaica. After today, it will be posted. So you can visit our page, subscribe to our page, click on the notification bell so that as soon as this video is posted, you will be alerted as to the fact that it is there. But all our webinars are posted to our YouTube page, JBDC Jamaica. So all you have to do is visit there. So it's not just JBDC's virtual biz zone in the afternoon session. You have the morning session that was held this morning. And we also have other content such as the entrepreneur's journey and the JBDC in concert that you can access. Very good information and even guidance from other entrepreneurs as to how you can go about dealing with your business, best practices at best. So don't forget to visit us and like and subscribe to our page. You definitely won't regret it. Okay. All right. So just to let you know, I'm going to wrap up now. Just to let you know, outside of visiting our YouTube page, Don't forget that you can visit our social media pages as well, whether Facebook, Instagram, and get information or contact us if you need to get any additional information on our services. Also, you may send us an email at www.info@jbdc.net to get additional information or to make a query. You can call 876-928-5161 to get access to any one of our departments. We have numerous departments that are here to assist you: business advisor services, marketing support services. We also have technical services, which is the department facilitating this particular slot. So don't forget that info@jbdc.net. So don't forget that you can contact us via any one of those mediums to be able to access any one of our employees or any particular unit that may be of importance to you at any time. So Triana, thank you again for today's presentation. It was very useful. I'm sure persons will be able to utilize it to advance whatever they may be embarking on. So we thank you for also being here today again, and we look forward to you joining us next week for another interesting presentation. Next week, we will be looking at using design thinking for successful product development. So I look forward to you being here. So until then, please be safe, take care of yourselves, and don't forget to visit our YouTube page. So thank you again.